This is Jennifer Hall, and I'll be presenting on Haim Ginott. He did a lot of studies on how adults and children, teenagers, how they communicate, and we're going to look at how that affects behavior, and we're going to look at how that affects our classroom management. First of all, who is Ginott? He was born in Israel, and he taught elementary education in Israel before he came to the United States. Here he studied and received his doctorate in clinical psychology from Columbia University, and from there he moved to Florida and worked with troubled children and their families, and he developed many ideas on communication during that time. And he shared those ideas through several books, and three of his most well-known books were Between Parent and Child, Between Parent and Teenager, and Teacher and Child. Just overall, his viewpoints, he looked at controlling, or he supported controlling behavior through prevention, instead of responding to behavior. He also felt that parents and teachers if they were taught how to directly communicate with children, then this would decrease the amount of children who would face mental and emotional illness. It would also decrease that negative behavior being passed on to the generations, or those emotional and mental illnesses and communication problems being passed on. He also emphasized that it was the incorrect behavior that needed to be addressed, not the individual child. Therefore, the child is not bad, the behavior is bad, and so the behavior is what we need to correct. Furthermore, he looked at classroom climate. He said that this had a huge role in how students felt about themselves, and therefore it's crucial that as teachers we maintain a positive classroom environment. We're going to take a look at one of Ginott's quotes about classroom climate, and this is basically overall how he felt about classroom climate and the impact that teachers have on that climate and have on the students.
As a teacher, a tremendous power.
So Ginott's quote really makes us think about the response that we have with students and the communication that we have with students and how that affects their behavior and our classroom in general. Ginott's congruent communication theory, he looked at, like we saw in the quote, he felt that whether the classroom experience was good or bad, whether the overall climate was good or bad, that affected student behavior. So he felt that students still need to accept responsibility for their behavior, but teachers were responsible for creating a climate for proper behavior. Also, congruent communication is defined as harmonious communication between a teacher and a student. So this harmonious communication would promote appropriate behavior without the use of demeaning or dehumanizing actions toward the students. There are 3 tenets of Ginott's theory of congruent communication, and we're going to look more in depth with these as we go out throughout the presentation. But teachers should communicate harmoniously concerning students' feelings about themselves and their situations. Teachers should behave in a way that encourages student cooperation, and teachers should promote discipline as an alternative to punishment and the essence of discipline. Here are several additional roles of a teacher. These are some of the things that Ginott said that in order to have a positive climate, that we needed to do these things. So I have, excuse me, I've typed in some reasoning behind these, and I won't go through all of these, but I will go through some of them, and you feel free to read through the rest of them. I think they're really important to having a good and positive learning environment for our students. First off, we need to emphasize clear communication with students. Ginott felt that if we as teachers communicate our expectations and maintain open communication, then students will feel more comfortable and they'll behave more appropriately. Also, we need to avoid behaviors that communicate that we are the supreme power, because when we do that, the students may feel that they have no say in the class, and this may cause them to act out, whereas if they feel that they are a part of the class and that what they think and feel is it matters, then they're less likely to act out. Also, be aware of the importance of seeking alternatives to punishment. When we punish students with different consequences, Ginott felt that once they've fulfilled that, once they've paid for their misbehavior, then that relieves the guilt, and so in the future they're just basically trying to not get that punishment again, but they're not really learning and learning how to discern what is right and wrong, and they're not developing their conscience. Also, a few more. Avoid the use of sarcasm and demeaning statements and tones. If we're talking down to our students or being sarcastic, this is going to decrease their self-confidence, and that destroys our relationship with our students. And that relationship isn't there, then we are unable to, or they're unable to trust us, and that may cause behavior issues. Also, we're going to talk more about utilizing I messages and U messages a little bit later in our presentation. But basically, if we use U messages, then that's going to it's going to take some of the attack off from the students. Like, they're not going to feel as if we're attacking them when we share our feelings about how their actions make us feel. So, moving on, there are several more. Acknowledge students' feelings and keep their dignity intact when addressing behavior issues. So, giving students an opportunity to save face. Ginott felt that we needed to always be responsible for encouraging our students and lifting them up as far as building their self-confidence rather than bringing them down. And another way to do that is through appreciative praise and not evaluative praise. Like if we focus on giving them praise like you were so smart, then because you made all A's, then that's going to put unnecessary pressure on them to continue keeping that standard. So, in order not to do that, we need to make sure that we are putting the praise on their effort, and this is going to build their self-confidence. Also, two more, we need to address only the issue at hand and not bring up past incidents. And then we need to respect students' privacy. And there are reasonings for those as well that you can read through. We're going to take a closer look at the U messages and I messages. U messages communicate an attack on the students' character and personalities. For example, you are distracting or you are constantly talking, whereas I messages communicate how the behavior makes the teacher feel. For example, I'm annoyed when students get up and sharpen their pencil in the middle of the lesson, or I'm frustrated when students talk while I'm talking. So here's a little practice. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at these U messages, and we're going to see if we can make them more positive and tell our feelings. So you're welcome to pause this presentation and jot down what you think the I messages are, and then hit play when you are ready to continue. Hopefully you have already finished your I messages, and I just wrote some samples here to share with you guys of what might be possible I messages for the previous messages, previous U messages. So the first one was, you are a troublemaker. Maybe you could say, it makes me angry when students argue with one another. Or if you never listen, you could say, it frustrates me when I have to repeat myself because students aren't listening. And then, you don't try on your assignments. It makes me sad when students don't try their best because I know that all my students can be successful. So these I messages really put the emphasis on the teacher and how he or she feels, and it takes the emphasis off from the students being attacked, the student's character being attacked. So that's something that I think we can definitely implement into our classrooms, and I thought that was something that really impacted me from Ginott's theory. And just a few final thoughts. According to Ginott, the teacher plays a crucial role in managing not only the classroom behavior, but also helping students maintain positive self-use. Therefore, a teacher who is able to maintain positive climate will gain the respect of his or her students, and this will result in a decrease in inappropriate behavior and increase in learning. And so, Ginott felt that, if we were encouraging the students and building their self-confidence and maintaining those positive self-views and building those relationships with our students, then that would kind of prevent behavior issues. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you can apply some of these things in your classroom. Thanks for listening.